Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks and my code HMA. Both Brendan and I are sponsored by Prize Picks, which is America's #1 sports app. The app is really easy to use. Just pick more or less, lock in your lineup, go out there and make yourself some money. Prize Picks is available in many of the states in the United States, including Texas and California. Though in Washington, you will still have to use it on a casino's network if you want to use the app in full. They've got a new user offer where if you put down $5 on a lineup, they will get you $50 in lineup when you either use my code, HMA, or simply just click the link down in the description section below. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details, and always remember to gamble responsibly. Hello there, and welcome to the B&B Show. My name is, of course, Brandon Kane, and this guy to my side here, that's Seahawks. Brendan Nelson back in the house here to wrap up our draft coverage here, our prospect outlook. Brendan, are you feeling good about your outlook on this draft? Have you got your mind wrapped around these guys and where they're slotted to go? And are you still doing some last minute kind of work to scramble?
I'm on the tight ends now, and when you get down to tight ends, you know you're down at the bottom. So I'm good, man. I am ready to go. Still doing a little bit of work. I'm sure I'll be working right up until the draft itself, but so it goes. I'm still having a lot of fun. Still feel like I have a good feel for it.
Absolutely. Well, bless you for going for the tight ends, man, because we know the Seattle's no chance they're drafting them. I've gone through about maybe 7 of them, and I'm like, I'm not going to go there. And it doesn't help that there's like 95 tight ends in this draft either. So if you're in for one, you're going deep on that on that position. Well, today, folks, me and Brendan, as I said, are kind of wrapping up our coverage here of the draft. Now, Seattle are a little bit limited by picks, and we tried to take a little bit more of a specific approach this year into looking at positions that we think are more likely of the target and ignoring positions that we don't think are going to be targeted, like aforementioned tight end position, which is not going to be one they're going to select with already 4 guys plus a fullback, 5 guys plus a fullback on the roster right now. And so we have kind of tried to pull this down to where we look at the defensive tackles and middle linebackers today. We're trying to stay a little bit more at the top of the draft and look at those guys Seattle might be selecting sort of in the day 1, 2, and maybe even a little bit 4th if they trade down a little bit. But we're going to kind of sandwich these two together today, just because, again, it's we want to try to get to more of specifically looking guys that are really on target and the good guys in this draft, not as much into the day 3s, because, again, we only have one day 3 pick as it stands, so not likely to be in that area. When you let's start with the defensive tackles on this, Brendan. And when you do look at the defensive tackles in this draft, is there anything notable that stands out to you about what you've seen from them on tape? Is there anything that's maybe a little bit different about the defensive tackles this year in this class than what we've seen in recent years from your perspective?
Well, I would say, first of all, the 3-tech class it's weak. It's very weak. If you think about some of the recent 3 defensive tackle classes we've had in the last several years of doing this, like Jalen Carter certainly would have been the top tackle in this class. I think that Khalid Jacansi would have been the top tackle in this class. I would say that Byron Murphy would be the top tackle in this class. Jordan Davis is not even really a 3-tech, I know that, but he would be the top in this class. It is definitely not up to the standard that we've seen in recent years. It's not a very good defensive tackle group. Even a guy like Brian Bresee might be about as good as the best 3-techs in this class to me. So that part of it is pretty weak. And we're going to get through the 3-techs pretty fast, I think, in this video because there's so little to talk about. Now,
yeah, I agree with. Sorry, go on.
The nose tackle is a different story. So it's kind of a weird class, right? Where you have weak on 3-tech, strong on nose tackle. Usually it's the other way around.
100% see it the same way. We've had some nose tackle drafts, I think you and I, where we've seen maybe there's 1 or 2 guys that are NFL potential built at the nose tackle position in some of the drafts. And so kind of weird this year with this draft. We've got so many guys that really do fit the bill in that nose tackle position really well. So you got some options here, Brendan. Like I said, I agree with your assessment of it. It's not sparkling 3-tech, but there are some nose tackles who can give you a little bit of pass rush in addition to that at times. So without further ado, let's jump in. And we're going to go with the top guy I've got on my board here at the nose tackle position, a guy that I think is built like a Seattle Seahawk in a lot of ways. And that's going to be Caden McDonald, nose tackle out of Ohio State, a 1-tech, big old dude, 21 years old, 326 pounds. So he's got that legit size in there, 6'2 and a third. So, he kind of built so he can, with the nice arms, not nice arm size, but again, I think his arms are okay on tape. but built in that way that he can win the leverage war really easily at that size versus some of the offensive linemen he's going up against. Did you like McDonald's tape?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm a fan, and we have met with this guy with the top 30 visits. So there is definitely a world where the Seahawks get to their pick at 32, and he is the best player left, and we take him. And I like that world. I think that's a pretty good world to live in here. I like him. I like him a lot. Maximum effort. He covers a lot of ground for a bigger guy. He can even do some gap shooting. I don't know if we'll use him like that, but he can shoot gaps more than you would expect. Very powerful. He's got a legit bull rush. He's cerebral in flowing to the action. He understands where the play is going. Now, I do think that he's a nose tackle. He doesn't rush the passer a lot. I am worried about the arm length a little bit. He's got very lackluster arm length. And there isn't a lot here as a pass rusher, but he is a classic nose tackle. He is a neutralizer against the run. I'm hoping that his arms are a little bit longer than listed, and the combine just messed it up, which that's happened a lot this year, we believe. We don't know, but we believe. But if we get at 32 and McDonald is still there, that is something I would be pretty excited about personally.
I would too. I think that your assessment's probably pretty close to where I land on him as well. I do think as a nose tackle, he's the immovable force you want. He's going to hold up against double teams at the point of attack and just be absolutely stout in there. He is a guy to me that fits as much into the type of personality of offensive line you want to create. And I've called him an ass kicker. And it's just that he is a guy that wants to go out there and get in a fight with you for 60 minutes. Like, he's not going out there to just be, pretty in how he gets past you. He's going to physically want to overwhelm you. And we've got an defensive line that we've kind of built all the way around that's sort of like that across the board in so many ways. And so I've just thought that his fit's so true as much of anything because of that. He seems to be a guy that might be one of the top guys, Brendan, as far as value-based picks. If you're sitting and picking at 32 and this guy slips down and falls into your lap, do you see that as well as kind of, in general terms? There's a couple guys that fit this bill a little bit, but him being one of those guys where it's like, probably should be picked somewhere in the 20s, but if he does fall into you at 32, it's really a good value state in this draft to be grabbing him at.
Yeah, I will admit the arm length can put people off a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, whoa, we got to pause for a minute here because of that arm length. But I think he's a first-round pick at the very least. And I would say that based on his tape, he should probably be somewhere around 20, 21, 22. So if you can get him at 32, yeah, I think you pounce on that. Unless there's something even more appealing there, which is possible. But to me, Caden McDonald is kind of like the guy that I think people would be a little bit confused if we drafted him because it's like, oh, we don't need another defensive tackle. We've got this guy and that guy and that guy. But to me, this is one of the ones that would be like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Just do it if you can, because he does do stuff that other guys on this team do not do. Right? Like we don't have a true nose tackle on the team right now, in my mind. We have guys that can do it, but they're not really nose tackles.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of putting it. And some people may be wondering why we're looking at nose tackle as a real potential for Seattle. It's partly because the value could hit right in day 1 or 2 with it, where it's such a good player for where you're picking. Part of this too, of course, comes into Jaron Reed and Leonard Williams, and what's the long-term plan with both those two players? Are both those two players looking to play multiple years still left? Are they going into maybe the final year here? So if you do know this from John's perspective, you're going to be driven to probably look at a defensive tackle if that is the case, where a year from now you're going to need to get at least 1 or 2 more replacements in there. John would try to get ahead of that theoretically here. The next guy I have up on my board, I don't know if he's right behind McDonald for you in this respect of things, but he is a guy that I'm really, really high on, and I really love the part. Look, there's going to be the health side we're going to talk about here, but with Caleb Banks out of Florida, I love that we're in a draft that you have this, floor, not much ceiling. And then here you have in Caleb Banks, the guy that actually has ceiling, and not just a measurable amount of ceiling, but in my opinion, he's got a Chris Jones-like ceiling. Now, big questions about whether he can reach that or not, Brendan. But did you find yourself lower on that with Banks in this way, or that the foot injuries are just too scary for you, or did you like him as much as me?
There's upside here, man. There is some tremendous upside potential here, and that does stand out in this draft. You are right. He is a massive dude. He's tall. He's got long arms. He's got maybe the longest arms in this class. I'm not sure for any player, like 35-inch arms. That's no joke. He's got giant hands. He is a phenomenal athlete for his size. He jumped 9 feet 6 inches on the broad, which is crazy for a dude like this. He has a lot of knockback power. He just stalls out momentum with his hits into blockers. He even has a little bit of first step quickness on the field, man. And he's got some legitimate pass rush moves. He aligned in different places at Florida. So you look at him and you see somebody that could be like a Pro Bowler. Now, you also see somebody that might not never do anything because he can't stay healthy. He's a sloppy player. He doesn't have technique yet. He plays too high. He loses leverage. Probably going to be one of those guys that you can only play like 25 snaps a game and then he gets tired. So there are concerns here. In fact, I think that some people might even argue because of his lack of technique in the middle, he's almost like a 5 tech right now. He needs to play a little bit more on the outside. I've seen some people speculate on that. But if this works, this is going to work big time. And there is one other 3 tech in this class, Peter Woods, who is graded higher than Banks. And I understand why, but Banks could be much better than Peter Woods will ever be in my mind.
Yeah, it's a kind of, you could see how there's a route to both players overcoming the other and being better. And with Banks, the risk is there. I mean, the upside's there, but there's no more risky of a guy too. And there's some defense tackles we're going to talk about here that are having a little bit more safety net beneath them. There is no safety net beneath Caleb Banks. You're drafting him, and it's very well a guy that could end up being a bust, or a guy that ends up the foot injury stuff still ends up being an issue or problem. I think if the medicals are clean though, and to be going for this kind of upside, which if his foot's healthy, if there's no issues there, he's probably a top 20 pick in this draft. It's the foot injury that's going to allow him to drop down to you and where you're going to be selecting. And so much like with McDonald, I just really like the value of these 2 picks for where you're selecting. And in this draft in particular, which just has, so few guys across the board, especially in the defensive tackle position, that actually have upside and actually have some real, like, legitimate star power to that upside and what they bring. And I think he does that. He's no more freakishly built a defensive tackle in this draft you will find. And he is a guy that when the tape flashes, and I was at the Senior Bowl, man, and when he turned it on at the Senior Bowl, he was unblockable. And that was both during the week of practices and that was in the game. And I think that, when he wins fast, people in Seattle are talking about, we got to get more guys who can win fast. We got to get more guys who can capable of winning quick. There you go. Here's a guy that can win quick on the inside. We'll see where it goes with him. Next guy up, we'll grab Peter Woods. I want to hear what you got to say about Peter Woods. I'm a little bit light on this guy. 21 years old, 6'2 and a half, pure 3 tech at 298 pounds. Little bit of shorter arms. Has a little bit of the situation going on that his running mate out there at Clemson had. Isn't this just kind of the theme of Clemson defensive players, though, Brendan? Well, their prior year was a stronger year than the final year when they were coming out in the draft. Yeah, that's where we find ourselves with Peter Woods, and it's. What do you make of it, man? I mean, what do you make of this guy? Because a lot of people love him. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, there's a Quinn Williams type player, Like, I don't see it.
Yeah, he does shed well in college, I think, although I don't think that's going to translate that well to the NFL. He's got some mobility to get through gaps and test linemen laterally. He's also a good twister. You can send him on twists and stunts, and he's going to be good. He should be pretty versatile on the line. But he doesn't really look the part. He doesn't have the body you want. You'd want somebody a little bit bigger, somebody with longer arms. He takes plays off, I think. He can get pushed back by stronger blockers. He's not somebody that's just going to occupy space. And honestly, he's not that skilled of a pass rusher for a 3-tech. Like, you would want a little bit more, I think, here. So to me, he's just like, he doesn't really have upper level potential as a run defender or a pass defender. I think he could be okay at both. So in this draft, I guess he's a first rounder, but only barely. And in a normal draft, yeah, he would probably be like a mid-second rounder, I'd say at best. I'm not big into it, but I understand there's kind of a nice floor here where I feel like he'll be at least good. He'll be part of a good rotation. He'll be all right.
And a guy that we have to acknowledge, I've come up with a new term on this, Brendan. I'm going to call them the projectables. And what I mean by that is that these guys that are 20 and a half, 20 and 6 months years old, and they're coming out into a draft, you know what I mean? Like where they'll barely turn 21 by the start of the season. And we're going to talk about another guy, Anthony Hill, at the linebacker position that's like this, Josiah Trotter as well. And that I'm starting to get more of a theory on these type of guys, Brendan, as far as really being open-minded to the thought process of like, this isn't a finished product. This guy's got more to come along in his game at this age. It's just naturally going to be the way. And, we talk about Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks, 23 years old. He is 2 years older than Peter Woods and having that development time. And I think that makes a big difference at that age. I really do. And I'm not saying that I'm pushing back anything against your assessments. I mean, the thing like just the stunt usage that they do with the loop and the twists, I think they do that partly because that's just the way to utilize his battering ram method of his approach, because he's not really using his hands. He's just going to try to be kind of a heavy hustle guy that's going to just try to just work his butt off as much as he can with some snaps of kind of taking some plays off mixed in there. But you're not seeing any kind of refinement. But then he is also only 20 and a half, almost 21 years old. So then how much can I chalk that up to that'll come with time, or the body will get better, like you mentioned, with time as he's going to develop. There's just a lot of projection here. And unlike some of the other guys that are 20 and a half that I like a lot, as far as like an Anthony Hill I love a lot, I don't know as much that he's going to reach to that upside here. He plays the great motor, but I don't know if I see the flashes enough on tape really to as much understand why so many people are so in on him.
Yeah, he's a product of a weak class, and I do kind of value Banks a little bit more. I do. I understand why some people wouldn't. I know that Banks is scary and intimidating, but at the same time, I think that Banks has the potential to be an elite player, and Woods is going to be, I don't know, maybe a Jaron Reed level player or something like that. Not the same style, but maybe that level.
Yeah. But kind of the same, like the way that when Jaron got moved to 3-tech, kind of like that player that you were getting in 3-tech. Yeah, I think that's a good comp, because Jaron was a 1-tech coming out that got moved. Right. And this kid's not, this kid is pure 3-tech size of it, but I think that's a very fair assessment of it. And it's the way I see it. He just doesn't have any kind of pass rush plan right now. There's not any part of his game that you look at and you say, well, there's some elegance involved with his game. It is all very rough and blunt, and he's not powerful enough to kind of operate that way, quite frankly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I do have him myself a little bit, I think, lower. Actually, I've got him into I got him in the deep second myself, mid to deep second. So you're in about the same place, it sounds like.
Yeah, I have him a little bit higher just because the draft is weak, but in terms of a prospect, yeah, I agree.
Next guy up we have on my board here just below Peter Woods, as well as a late second round guy for me, is Lee Hunter, a little bit of an older prospect at 24 years old, 6'3.5", 320 pounds. Good arm length on this kid, 33 and 2/4 inch arms. Average-ish, low, small hands though a little bit there. Yeah. He didn't test phenomenally well. In fact, tested pretty badly. How do you get only? Don't you get a 21.5-inch vert just by like a little baby leap? Doesn't that get you to 21 inches?
Yeah, it's like he must have slipped or something and just felt like, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I at least want to get to 2%. You know what I mean? I can get 22 inches here, coach. I got 22 in me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think testing matters that much for a nose tackle, so I'm not going to stress too much about it, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it is pretty bad on that one. So Lee Hunter, where do you stand on him? Part of a very talented defensive line for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Romeo Height, and we got the kid out of the other kid, Bailey's going here in the first round. What do you think about this guy?
He's got a really wide frame. Like, I know his arms are pretty long, but he's also got broad shoulders. So it's like he's got, he's like a center in basketball or something with his reach. He holds his ground well. He's powerful enough to knock back blockers. He's also actually productive for a bigger guy. Like a lot of these nose tackle types you look at, they get like maybe 1 to 2 tackles a game. This guy's actually involved in more plays. He's got 20 tackles for loss over the last 2 years combined and 53 pressures on Pro Football Focus. So there is some production here. This is not just a dude who sits down in the middle and absorbs contact. So there is some upside here. He's got good stack and shed. Like, if somebody wanted to argue that Lee Hunter has more potential than McDonald, I would not strongly object to that. I do think that he is more of a raw strength guy. He doesn't use technique very well. I still don't think he'll be a great pass rusher. And he doesn't cover a lot of ground the way McDonald does. So McDonald is more rangy and polished as a player. But I do wonder if you look at Hunter and you go, he's a better pass rusher. He's got a wider frame. He's got the longer arms. You could make an interesting argument there. I like McDonald more, but I'd put Hunter in like the middle second round or something. I like him. He's not somebody I want to get at 32, but he is nice.
Yeah, I think that's about the same place I find myself on. And I think the worry's a little bit about the chase and space stuff that you need, maybe guys to do in this system, or you want to have done, is a fair point as far as wondering about that with him, because I think he's going to be a more in-place kind of guy. You know, I operate, especially in the run game in this area. You give me the outside zone, I got to chase it way to the edges. I may not be as much good in that neighborhood. I think I did like a little bit of what he did with his pass rush moves more than you on this. I found that he had good, precise hands, heavy swipe, and wipe kind of move. He's got a dip and rip, effortless swim. He has kind of a little bit of a bag. We're talking a couple of guys here from fire, like Peter Woods has got like no bag. This guy's got a very deep bag, and
he's a better pass rusher than McDonald for sure, I think.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely there.
There's something there.
There's something there, and that's nice that he's got those finesse moves, but then he does still have the bull rush as well. I think as part of the reason that, that he picks up so many stats too, even though he's not a chase in space or a rally to the ball guy, as far as I'll get 20 yards down the field over this spot. He does play with a good motor. But he's also very well aware at all times in the run game of what's going on around him. And that I can't tell you how many snaps I saw with him on tape where he'd be engaged with the blocker, the run play's going through, he's stout, and then he's able to sort of do that, stage hook move that defensive linemen can do, where the guys, just as he's running by, they can kind of catch the running back with the one arm and then get the tackle off of that. He had a lot of that. And I see a lot of defensive tackles where they'll get into the block and then they're just stuck on the block and the guy can run right past their left or their right. Like Derek Hall has a little bit of this problem at times where his awareness with the ball carrier actually near and around him is not there. And he could be there to kind of be, if he just stuck an arm out, he'd catch the guy, but he can't get off. He's like so stuck on, destroying the block that the ball carrier just kind of goes all the way past. So to me, a complete defender here in that way. There is probably a little bit of some, limits to what he can do in certain respects, but I think you could kind of pop him between 3-tech and nose tackle at times, Brendan. And that does help in this kind of defense to have a guy like that who can do both of those two things. I think he'd be comfortable in each kind of role in that way.
Yeah, I do like him. And if we got him at 32, I wouldn't even be upset. I would just be like, yeah, you could have done a little bit better. But Lee Hunter's kind of a guy that no one's talking about that I feel like people should talk about a little bit more.
Had a very strong Senior Bowl when I was out there as well. So probably maybe the best defensive tackle that week out. Him and Caleb Banks were probably the two best defensive tackles throughout that week and including the game. So interesting guy. A little bit older here, but I do like him quite a bit. All right, we'll keep it moving here as we now go into, for me, what's going to be the third round. And this is another interesting player for me. A little bit of gives you a bit of 3-tech, 1-tech to him a bit. That's going to be Christen Miller, Georgia, 6'3", almost 6'4", 321 pounds, 33-inch long arms, and big 10-inch hands, or good size hands. I struggled with him, man. I watched a lot of his tape, Brendan, and I still don't know if I've got a great read on Christen Miller. Is that understandable from your perspective?
I mean, what is he? What is he? Is he a nose tackle or is he a 3-tech? Is he neither? Is he something else? Hard to know. He looks like a nose. He does. But he moves pretty well for a guy of his size, and he's not that wide-bodied. He doesn't occupy lateral space the way that you would like a nose to. So this one, it is kind of difficult. He's got some pass rush upside, I think, even though he hasn't tapped into it yet from the college game. He's a good run defender. He knows how to win with leverage, should be somewhat versatile in the best case scenario. But I don't know what he's going to be. His lateral agility isn't really there. Sometimes he's a little over aggressive. And it's just hard with these Georgia defenders sometimes because of the way they play. It's hard to get a read for what they really are. So I guess I'd go third round as well. It just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know if I'm really into it. Like if you get him in the third, that's fine. But there's something here that makes me feel like he'll end up stuck in the middle.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the right word to use or phrase to use. You said there just doesn't feel like something right here. And that's, I guess, where I was at with it too, where I just, look, he plays violent. You mentioned the leverage. I think he absolutely really does dominate within the leverage war of things. He plays with just such a great pad level. But there's a lack of explosion to him too. And it is a little bit of, rather than you get a little bit of the best of both worlds between nose tackle and 3-tech, Brendan, I just feel like you get a little bit more of a vibe of a tweener, where he's kind of neither. I'm neither at the point of attack type dude, and I almost feel like you got a little bit of maybe a guy that's going to become like a bit like Alfred Collins was for the Niners last year, where you're getting this guy that's got good size, does really great against the run, but you're basically getting a 3-tech run defending guy at that point. That's sort of that's where he's probably heading as a player. He does generate pass rush, Brendan, but the second he gets close to the quarterback, he doesn't have the burst to close the deal. Like the quarterbacks just do the little and they're out the back door. He can get and create the pressure, but he can't actually go and make the sack. He just doesn't have the burst to get there. And even a guy with average quarterback with average speed can kind of get away from him. And that stands out to me again as I'm trying to think about him as a 3-tech, where I'm like, okay, well, maybe he just goes 3-tech full time and then he's in there and he can be just, really tough in there. I know he's going to be good against the run, but what's the value of a 3-tech that's more of a run stuffer that doesn't give you much pass rush?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. My gut tells me he's not a nose tackle, but I could see the argument that he is, by the way. That's kind of my feeling. So the aggregate has him in the second. I put him in the third. Wasn't super into it.
Yeah, I'm in the same place with it. Just don't quite. He is another one of those guys that can be a bully on the line. He's of the variety of, like we talked about, Caden McDonald or Zion Young. Here is another guy that's kind of a bully on the line and how he operates, which does fit to the style of defense we play and the kind of players that we are looking at. So kind of interesting there. All right, let's go to the guy that I've got here in my third round after him, and that is going to be Zane Durant. I know I told you I had Gracen Olsen in the third coming in as Brendan, but I went back and watched Olsen today. I put him into the fourth. So I got Durant as my last guy in the third here. Right at the top of the fourth for
yeah.
But Zane Durant, we got 22 years old, 6'2", 290. So we got 3-tech here, 31, almost 32-inch long arms. Good big hands.
Hopefully that's not accurate, by the way.
Hopefully
he's got another half an inch in there.
Somewhere in there. Hopefully he's got the big hands to compensate. 4.75, 40, 1.66, 10-yard split. So another one of these guys, like many of these folks, this is why this draft's so average. You can just see the testing times are just kind of make you shrug, and you just kind of go, okay.
I mean, he tested well, but he's undersized. He needs to test well. He tested about what you would expect for his size.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. 290 pounds. It's like,
you better move. You better be able to move. But, he is one of these typical undersized 3-techs. He launches off the ball quick. He's got some pass rush skills. He's usually the low man into contact. And he's smart. I think he's a cerebral player in terms of reading and reacting. But the length is going to be a big issue. He is small. He will get pushed around. He's like maybe one of these kind of ram defensive tackles, the stunters and twisters, the undersized guys. I ended up going fourth round here, early fourth. Just kind of generic to me. And also, I think he was a lot better in 2024 than 2025, which is always a little bit difficult to process, I think.
Yeah, Penn State, like Clemson's got that going on a little bit too as well at times, don't they? I think that's pretty accurate. He's kind of in that Aaron Donald candidacy role and how he's got to win with being so undersized. And he's he can give you some of the flashes that can kind of look like those guys. He goes quiet on tape far too often. Another guy that does a great job utilizing his small size to his advantage and winning the leverage war time and time again. And he'll get you quick wins and he can give you a little bit of the first step quickness. He's got a great little sidestep bounce move that he can do off the snap to get lateral that really challenges defensive or offensive linemen to get, to climb over there and catch back up to him. But you just have so much of the tape that there's nothing happening and he's just getting neutralized with ease. And then you get the flash rep and, he's not super old. So maybe there's some hope here that the development comes with time, but you told me early fourth round, I've got him late third round, but I could be absolutely talked into early fourth, Brendan.
Yeah. And I know we're trying to be objective here, but I don't know if the Seahawks would be overly interested in a 290-pound tackle. That doesn't seem to be. Yeah. Like I know Riley Mills is undersized too, but he also plays bigger than he is physically.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. He's got a little bit more of a stoutness to him on that I think that it's a little different there. He's a different animal. The next guy up, I do have his top moved him to the back of the fourth round here. Gracen Halton out of Oklahoma. 293 pounds, 31, 13 inches on the arm length for him. Was it Oklahoma or was he?
No,
Missouri.
I think Halton's. Let me check to be sure here. I'm pretty sure it was Oklahoma. Yeah, it is. But yeah, no, he was a career Oklahoma guy.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of something else then. My bad.
McClellan, maybe? McClellan?
Yeah, I was thinking McClellan. That's who I dropped down was McClellan. Okay. That's who I was. Holston I had at the top of the fourth as it was. So, Gracen Holston here. What were your thoughts on him? Another 3-tech, sub 290-pound guy, so probably not a guy we're looking at. But
so, yeah, he's a gap shooter, and he's pretty good at it. It's hard to block him cleanly. It reminds me of Cansey, Collegiate Cansey, slippery, just kind of hard to really square up on him. He's a good athlete for the position, although he needs to be a good athlete because he's small. He's a high effort guy. He hits powerfully with his punches, but he is small and he's got very short arms. Even if the combine cheated him some, it's still bad. It's still probably sub 32. So he's not a great hand fighter. And overall, I just ended up going with like third round. I still put him in the third, but not into it personally.
Yeah, I think he's also probably 4-3 rather than the 3-4. Fair enough on that one. This is a 3-4-3 defensive tackle, old school style in that manner. I think he's got to go to that kind of defense. I had Tampa Bay, Detroit, Tennessee. Those were my fits for him. So I just don't think that he's a real nice explosive 3-tech, but just a little too light, a little bit like the last guy, Durant, we said, just not enough stoutness there. He's just an expert block defeater. You want him in single gapping kind of defense where he can just get upfield and defeat blocks and just be, play wrecker a little bit. But I like him as well. I could see putting him in the top, third round. I got him a little fourth round just because lack of fit to us. But if you were a 4-3 team that took him in the third round, I think it completely makes a lot of sense, Brendan. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I said, yeah.
Last guy we're going to look at here on the defensive tackle front is Daryl Jackson Jr., 23-year-old kid, another one of those just monster-sized players with just absolutely long arms, almost 35-inch long arms, 6'5 plus, 315 pounds, 11-inch hands. That's a 97 percentile on the hands, so big long arms, big old hands, big strong player, Brendan. What do you think about Daryl Jackson Jr.?
This one would be pretty fun. He is uniquely big. He can add weight. By the way, I know he's 315, but he's got the frame to add weight. He could get up to 330 and it wouldn't be that weird. That bull rush is going to knock some people out of the way for sure. He occupies space. He's not yet refined as a block shedder yet, but he can become a great one because of his length. So there is potential there. Now, the height can kind of work against him because of leverage, so he needs to really learn how to sink the hips. His actual technique is not there yet. He's not really a good athlete, which is not surprising. Fatigue is an issue for him as well. He wears down quickly because he is a bigger guy. So there's a lot of fun here. Not every coach is going to be able to bring it out. There's no guarantee that this works out. So it's upside versus downside. I ended up going third round on him because I do see the upside, but at the same time, I think that there's a world where maybe he just ends up never playing. Maybe he just ends up one of those guys that just completely washes out of the league. I think that there is some real downside potential here.
Yeah, he is a guy that's also maybe got some character concerns I've heard in the background on him a little bit. Really a pocket crusher. He's got no pass rush moves really on this. He's just going to be stronger and longer and overwhelm guys, command double teams because of his size, and teams definitely dedicated the double teams to his way of things. Not a guy that's really great with the awareness. Lee Hunter, we talked about being able to catch guys kind of in space and feel the running game around him. Daryl's going to lose track of that and get stuck on his block at times. He's just trying to be a hammer on every block and just kind of crush things down, which isn't the worst thing to go. There's fits on defenses for these type of players, but he's a blunt force tool, and you don't know. I think you said about like the rotation. I think you're gonna have to have him heavily rotated on through, but maybe as a guy that comes through and gives you the 15, 20 snaps a game, he can be in there and be a guy that's impossible to move. Is kind of as much as anything I think in him is just you can't move him at his size and his length, and you have to put the double teams. You can't get tricky with your blocking scheme. And we'll single block him and we'll pull our guard out in space. It's like, no, you're going to have to, at the point here from square one, start with blocking with the double team. And that in itself is a benefit to a team, just having that, even if you don't necessarily give a lot, beyond that. So I can completely understand you on the third round. He's another kind of freakishly built guy in a draft that's missing some of the freakish built guys. We've been looking at a couple of these sub 290 pound dudes. So makes a lot of sense to me, Brendan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There were a couple of other noses in this draft that I did kind of like, but they're not on this level. Like, do you, real quick here, we don't have to go over this in detail, but what do you think of a Dominique Orange?
Orange is an interesting guy. Another guy with a little bit of some character questions with him. Traditional nose tackle in every way, big frame, wide shoulders, just a run stuffer, works off really good pad level. I did put him in mid fourth round because I do feel like he's going to be basically just kind of a run stuffer at the next level in what he does. I don't think he gives you much pass rush. I had Daryl Jackson a little bit over the top of him just because of some of the freakish traits that are there with Daryl. That with Orange, I just think he's really kind of a garden variety nose tackle, not in a bad way, but just in the way that that's what he's going to do. That's what he comes in to do. And that historically to me, I can kind of get that in the mid 4th round.
Yeah. I liked him too, but he's very much a classic nose tackle. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you come away with that, I'm okay with that. 3rd round, even late 3rd, I can live with it because we have such a late 3rd round pick. What about...
He's a high floor guy, low ceiling, high floor guy in the draft. One of those kind of, this is the exact kind of poster child for this draft a little bit with that sort of stuff, but absolutely right.
How about the medical red flag himself, Mr. Dante Corleone?
I put him in the 5th round. He's a barrel-chested defensive tackle, strong as an ox, man. And he's had times where in his career over 3 years, watching him here, Brendan, that we've seen him dominant at times in both the run and the pass. 6'1", 320, so he wins that leverage war. They're kind of like a Brandon Mabane type, where he's going to be able to win the leverage war because of the size and just get up underneath you constantly. I think he's a fun guy in day 3, man. The blood clot issue back in 2024, though, we've seen a couple players have that come up that's been continued to be an issue and that they've had to work through. But I think he's a high motor guy that to get him into the 5th round, I think, as far as still the potential that exists inside him, and a guy that when I initially watched him, I thought this is a guy that could eventually become a 2nd, maybe even a high 1st round guy if he can keep developing as a young player. He just didn't keep developing.
Yeah. Feels like he might never play football either. Those blood clots, like he could get drafted, show up at camp, and they're just like, no, your career's over, dude. Like, that feels realistic.
It's like the neck or the heart valve stuff that you get on certain guys. There are those no-go places where it's like, we just can't play with this. It's going to be a day there. So, the medicals are going to be the key on this one. And if the medicals are clean, you're still getting him because of where he's been production-wise and the injuries thing in that mid 5th round, which to get that value there in this draft, because we know day 3, man, Brendan, drop off a cliff type area here. You are picking through also rans like nobody's business. So to have some actual upside there is kind of some value.
Yeah. So I just wanted to go over those guys real quick because they are kind of interesting as pure nose tackles, but obviously flawed.
Absolutely flawed. All right. Well, we're going to get over here to the linebackers for you folks here in just a second, but do want to throw a shout out here to the sponsor of both me and Brendan. Actually, they've been so kind enough to sponsor us both. Let me get my image here, and that's going to be Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 sports app running in the game today. And they've got a ton of different options on there for you to go through. We've got basketball, football, we got basketball, baseball, not football, but basketball, baseball running in full stream. You can put a ticket together here. Go with your, get this off the board here. Go with your overs and unders as far as the players on their yards go. You can see here that I put together a ticket for the season picks. So you can actually do NFL season picks where I can try to chart out guys of what I think they're going to do this upcoming year and go over or under on it. So I've got Jackson Smith-Njigba over 1,324 yards above that. And then I've got Jacoby Myers above 749 yards because he basically became the #1 wide receiver when he went to Jacksonville Jaguars last year. And when you use our code, both me and Brendan have the same code here. When you use our code HMA, you can have your $5 plan a lineup get you $50 instantly on top of it. That's a hell of a deal for you. So sponsor the show. So some love back to us. Go out there, win yourself some money. You think you know sports, put that knowledge to the test. You can match up on my ticket here or just create your own. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. And there are some limitations as far as the number of states. It's in California, it's in Texas, in most of the states. Washington's still held up a little bit, but if you use the app in a casino in full, you can use all of the app on a network in a casino, and we've got a ton of casinos in the state of Washington. So take advantage of Prize Picks today, the #1 sports app that's out there, taking advantage of my picks here. But thank you to them for sponsoring the show, for both me and Brendan, and thank you guys for utilizing our code. It's much appreciated.
HMA helps us both, man.
HMA helps us both.
We're not competing. We're not competing this year, man.
No. We're part of a team in every way on this. So in every way. All right, let's look a couple of donations here. Sean Collins, thank you for the $2 donation. Brando, the new music rocks. New music?
I was wondering about that too. Like, you don't have any music that plays at like the start of your streams, do you?
I don't.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not sure about this either. Interesting. Okay.
I'll be over my Clips channel. I got a guy doing some stuff on my Clips channel, so maybe it's on over there, Sean. Hell yeah. I've been telling that guy go crazy over there. So that's cool. It's cool to hear. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you, man. William Tarkowski, thank you for the $2 donation. Hey B, why is there so much steam on Price?
Yeah, well, I think it's because we need a running back, and people look at that and go, hey, they need a running back. That's going to be the best running back when they pick. So therefore, 2 + 2 is 4. And I understand why they might think that. I hope it's not that simple. I'll put it to you that way. I hope
doesn't it feel kind of brain dead? Isn't some of this stuff getting brain dead? Which I'm not anti Jadarian Price. I'm not going to be hating if he's taken. I just think that the evaluation on taking him from not local stuff, but I'm talking about national stuff here. Like you're down like Daniel Jeremiah. Who should they take at 32? Jadarian Price and Jadarian Price. What? So like, not only are we going to ignore value completely, we're going to pick for need, and we're going to pick for need for the running back position that's supposed to be a devalued position.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit. It's not probative enough. It's like you didn't put enough. There's not enough critical thought going into it.
Isn't it a decision based on fear too at that point? Well, if we don't get this guy here, then who are we going to get? Well, if we don't have this guy, then who's our running back? I mean, isn't that then on top of being a pick for need, it's a pick for like you're feared of being left with something that's not going to be good enough. So that's why you take this player more than the love of the player itself.
Yeah. I don't know. I wrote an article for the Seahawks on SI page earlier today, actually. And I talked about 3 guys that I'm kind of cautious about in this draft. And Price was one of them. Not because I don't want him, but getting him at 32, which is what people are talking about. I can't really get excited for that. That doesn't, butter my biscuit.
Yeah, mine either. So William, I share your feeling on this as well. I don't know why. Maybe it could be as well as Seattle's just trying to lay out to everybody out there, that's who they're going to get. It could be a smoke screen a little bit and just trying to get everybody thinking that that's the intention when they've got a whole different way they want to go with it. But it is one where I've felt for a while on this one, like this just are not the right parameters for picking a player that leads to draft success. In fact, these are the parameters that tend to lead to draft kind of failure. And that's where I get a little worried on it. Still think he's going to be a good player, and not going to mind taking him. But like Brennan said, it's just hard to generate a lot of excitement when those are the motivating factors that are pushing you to go take that player at that point.
Yeah, we can do better. I do believe that. I'm not going to be upset if we get him, but there's a part of me that is almost like, if I want a running back at 32, I'd almost rather do Mike Washington because there's upside there. Like that guy could be a star. I don't think Jadarian Price will ever be a star. I can't imagine him making a Pro Bowl.
No, I can't either, unless we've got like 17 guys injured and he's the 18th alternate or something.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's bounce over here to the linebackers, off-ball linebackers, and we're going to just look at a couple of select guys here again. We're not looking to go super deep on this, folks, just the guys into sort of the first round, day 2-ish area of things. And we're going to go to first the guy for me on this, and thank you again, William, for the donation. The first guy for me who's actually going to be my 3rd highest rated inside off-ball linebacker in this draft, just behind first rounders Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. And this is a guy that I've got a real soft spot for here, Brendan, and that's going to be Anthony Hill out of Texas. Just a pup. 20 years old right now. It's listed 21. He'll turn 21, I think, just before the start of the season.
Right. Like the week before, I think.
Yeah, like the literally week before. So when we say this kid's young, he is really young. 6'2", 238 pounds at the off-ball inside linebacker position. We're looking at 220 guys across the board these days and age. Yes, pretty good arm length as well at his size. He's ran a 4.51 40. That's plenty fast for an off-ball linebacker. 1.58 10-yard split. All very good numbers. 37-inch vert, good. 10.5 broad, good. So tested well. He's part of, as I've termed it, the prospects in this draft, Brendan, that are my projectables. Here's one of my projectables here. A guy that I think is, before I lead to what you're going to want to say with him here, a guy that to me you've really got to do the math on, understanding he's not a finished product, and understanding that the flashes he's showing should, in my opinion, come with more consistency with time and him getting a little bit older. Did you see it the same way?
Yeah. He's a lot of fun as is, but the 2025 season he had was kind of a disappointment. That was supposed to be his big breakout year. The numbers were way down. He's a little over aggressive at times. Some of the little finer points of coverage. So there is stuff to work on here, but it can be fixed. I don't think there's anything physical with him that is missing, except maybe he has segmented hips. That might be the one thing. But other than that, he's great at getting to the quarterback. He can blitz from inside or even line up outside a little bit and get to the quarterback really well. He covers a ton of ground. He's a great athlete. He can get through blockers. He can stack and shed. He's a good cerebral linebacker as well. His movement skills are smooth. So I understand that the 2025 season he had was a little disappointing, but this guy brings a lot. I think he has a high floor and a high ceiling, honestly. I think that he will be good and he could be special. So I ended up putting him in my first round as well. And that's a little bit of a bold statement because he is 49th on the aggregate big board last I checked. So that's me liking him more than the typical person.
Yeah, I didn't quite get to the first round phase of it, but he's right there on, and he's nosed up kissing into the first round. And you could talk me into making him a first rounder because this is a guy with upside in the draft, missing a lot of guys that don't have upside there. There's so much he brings to the table on what you do see from him right now. You captured a lot of it. His first step quickness is just phenomenal. So that 10-yard burst definitely does show up on tape, but just the first step quickness to the spot, like he's going to step to the right spot and be there quicker. Just in general terms, I thought he was really smart as a spot dropper in space, really good at feeling the quarterback's eyes. I thought he was a demon as a blitzer where the first step quickness comes back into play and he just has a nose for the ball and finding it, which is what you want to see from your off-ball inside linebackers. I think as well, he can play Will or he can play Mike. You can have him chasing space at the Will position. You can have him take on blocks as the Mike and he can defeat him. 238. He's got plenty of size and good length on the arms to be able to take on blocks coming at the second level. Really fun player for me, Brendan, and I'd be very excited with Anthony Hill. I know it's not a need. I know that this is one where you'd have a little bit of a glut of inside off-ball linebackers at that point, but talking about upside and star power, this kid's got it.
Yeah, there's something fun here. And look, I know that people would be like, why are we taking a linebacker if we take a linebacker at 32? But, I mean, Ernest Jones has 2 years left on his contract. Drake Thomas is on a 2-year deal that's very cheap. Tyrese Knight has 2 years left on his deal. We're going to need new linebackers potentially before you know it.
Is it crazy to say that there's a pretty good chance here that actually he ends up being a better player than Sonny Styles?
I think it's on the table. I wouldn't bet on it, but I can see it. I understand where that perspective may be coming from.
Let me put it this way. Has Sonny Styles' tape at Ohio State that you watched surpassed Anthony Hill's tape at Texas this year? Let's take out the combine numbers completely, just the tape itself.
I mean, I think Styles is a little bit better. I do. I think that safety background that he has really helps him. I really like what he does in coverage. But one thing with Styles is he's a little bit physically weak. He's not the strongest player. So there is a little bit of that going on as well. So I could hear it. I don't think I'm quite on board with it, especially in the modern game, but that can change. Like, what if, the running game continues to become a bigger and bigger part of NFL offenses? Things can swing that way. So maybe.
I just got some worries with Styles on getting off blocks, instincts in the run game. I wonder about that stuff with him just a little bit. All right, let's go to here another guy that some people actually think could maybe be even moved to the safety position. I've heard talk of with him. He's a guy that I've got locked up right here with my second inside off-ball linebacker, and I know Jacob Rodriguez for a lot of people love it, but these next two guys are for me. I like him a little bit more. I like Jacob as well, but especially for a fit for our defense, we're going to talk about in a second. But Kyle Lewis, 22-year-old kid out of Pittsburgh, fast as lightning, but he is really undersized, 6 foot 220. This is a little bit of where people come back to thinking maybe he goes to safety, and he ran a 4.5 340 with a 1.58 10-yard split, which are plenty fast enough for safety times, almost a 40-inch vert, almost 11-inch broad, 6.97 3 cones, pretty good as well. 4.26 20-yard shuttle, not too bad in that area. I look at Kyle and I go, I do like him, and boy, he just flashes all over the field as far as just being very quick to me, Brendan, just having a little bit of electricity to him. What do you think about Kyle?
Yeah, 24 tackles for loss over the last 2 years. So he finds his way into the backfield a lot. Most of these guys do not come anywhere near that. That might be the most of any linebacker other than like Red Murdoch, the Buffalo guy who's playing against future car salesmen. So, yeah, he is fun. Linebacker stuff, safety stuff, reads and reacts well, great athlete, excellent in coverage. His fluidity as a mover is there. But he may not be a linebacker. He gets wiped out of the play if you get a blocker on him. He can bite a little hard on misdirection. He was probably a better player in 2024 than he was in 2025. Another one of those. And not everybody's going to be able to make it work, but maybe you could even put him at big nickel. He could be like a big nickel for you at some point. So I went early third. It's hard to not appreciate him, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I don't think he's a linebacker, so I can't get too enamored with this.
I can understand that assessment with it. I like him a little bit more. My player comp for him was Patrick Queen, was my comp. I think he's going to need to be as a will linebacker, definitely if he's going to play as an off-ball linebacker versus Mike. 50 total pressures in the last 2 years as an off-ball linebacker, Brendan. I mean, we've got edges in this draft that are talked about that don't have 50-plus pressures in 2 years, which I thought was pretty interesting. And he's maybe the most aggressive off-ball inside linebacker we have in this draft, which, to you made the point, can get him into trouble at times. The size stuff can't always get off blocks at that size. This is where a little bit of the opening comes to playing out there at safety. 20% of his snaps last year was in the slot, to your point about being maybe a slot guy. Might just have to be kind of a weaponized piece. I mean, that if he can go to a kind of defense that can move him all around the place, and to a degree, our defense would foot that bill. But I do think that there's probably a better defense he goes to where more of a, get up the field guy and go after an attack and get downhill and just let this guy go and just be running around crazy. And that to me is more of a defense that may not be a Seahawks style defense, right? I'm trying to think of like, what's a defense out there that lets their linebackers kind of, shoot gaps, get downhill, be very decisive in their approach at all times versus kind of a read and react. Maybe like maybe Minnesota, Denver, maybe. Like a Broncos team feels like a really good fit. They just lost like the Dre Greenlaw just left them. Like they bring this kid in as their will. To me, that would make a lot of sense there for them.
Yeah, it's just so hard at 220, man. That's too much even for modern day. That's tough. I have a hard time with that one. But he is fun. I like him.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good player. Next guy that I was late on here, and he's risen up my board tremendously, and that's Josiah Trotter out of Missouri. And we're going to talk about a couple parts to his game here, but another one of my guys that I list as a projectable, being that this is another kid that's not yet 21 years old. I know we have listed 21 years old, but he's going to be turning 21 by just the start of the season. So this kid's very, very young, much like Anthony Hill. The size is really tremendous for this kid. 6'2", 237, 32 and 2.25 inch arms, nice big old hands as well. I really liked Josiah, and I have a feeling I know what your criticism might end up being of him, but I've got maybe an answer to it. But let's see what where you stand with him.
So yeah, I like him a lot too. I ended up putting him in my late second round. I'd ring him up about there. Great run defender. He reads plays really well. He knows how to work through blockers, work through traffic. He's got pop with his punches. He's got blitzing upside. I know he didn't do it a lot in college, but he is a good blitzer. He's a good form tackler. He's a pretty good athlete. I know he didn't do much at the combine, but he is a good athlete. He is high cut, so movement skills are a little bit not great. He's got the long legs, and the form when taking on the blockers occasionally a little suboptimal. He needs to get a little more consistent. And I wish he was better in coverage. I don't feel like he's going to be a great cover player because his movement skills aren't very fluid, but he can blitz at least. So you can at least have him do that on passing down. So late second round for me.
Yeah, I'm probably in about the same place, and I think the coverage stuff is an absolute valid criticism to throw on him because it's there, and that's the part of his projectable part of his game that I think will get better with time. I'm hoping, and I don't think that he's just got some open hole there where he can't get better. So, some of it's just to me just get some wisdom with, how to feel route concepts, and sometimes he's back there without as much of a plan in coverage. He just kind of seems a little bit sometimes lost back there, here and there. But I mean, pure run defending inside off-ball linebacker you'll find in this draft. To me, Brendan, I thought he was really good. I liked him a little bit better than you did at taking on blocks. And what I liked about him is I thought he had a couple different plans for how to eliminate blocks. He can come up there and take them on with, the nice long arms and give you the power and the strength. And then he's also got the ability to kind of dip around them as well. And not dip to where he's losing ground to dip around them, but dip around them in the context of still making progress to the ball carrier. And I just thought with what he does as a tackler and what he does as his run game instincts and how good he is as a blitzer, as you mentioned, I also think that he had the good enough quickness and speed where I think he can come along as a coverage guy. He is a pure Mike. You're not putting him as a Will. And as a guy, he's got to go to the right defense that probably is going to keep him in the middle of the field, taking away flat routes and playing kind of the spy role and the blitzer as a quarterback. To your point on that, like, you're not going to be able to have him do all of the variety of stuff unless that coverage stuff can really come along. But boy, he plays with a physicality, and he's such a rugged off-ball linebacker, still just barely going to be turning 21 here soon, that I feel like there's some reason to believe that there's more upside to be had in this kid.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm fairly into it. Wish he was just a little bit better on passing downs, but he's good. He's really good at other stuff.
The coverage stuff's fair, man. He's been picked on, and I don't want him in man coverage anywhere, shape, or form at any point. Because when you see him in man coverage, he's definitely lost on top of that. So you got to feel comfortable that you can develop this kid in his coverage abilities if you take him, especially take him more like you're talking about the late second. But I think there's a lot of reason to believe on these kids that are this young, Brendan. You know, there is. When you get a guy 23, 24, I get going, okay, it's a finished product, but just turning 21, that's a significant difference in age, especially at that age, to me, to give you a reason to believe that, you know, there can be something better there. All right, then the next guy we're going to go to is my last guy that I have here in the second round for me, and it hasn't been as much as Kyle Lewis and Trotter kind of raising up for me as much as it's anything with Jacob's tape that has me pushing him down. I want to hear your opinion on Jacob, 23 years old, 6'1", 3/8", former quarterback convert to the inside off-ball linebacker position, 231 pounds, kind of shorter arms, 30, almost just a little bit under 31 inches. Ran pretty good, 4.57, 1.6, jumped 38.5. So he's an explosive athlete at the inside off-ball linebacker position. I guess my issue here with him, Brendan, and want to know on you with this, is a little bit like Kyle Luis for me on this, where I don't know if he'll be a fit to our defense, as well as I think he's a downhill off-ball linebacker rather than a take him on at the point of attack off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, this is a fun one. Don't get me wrong. He's a good athlete. He's a playmaking magnet. He's kind of the opposite of CJ Allen, who I think we'll talk about in a minute here. CJ Allen is just kind of steady Eddie from snap to snap. He does his job, but he doesn't make a lot of big plays. Jacob Rodriguez will have bad plays, but then he will make the big play in the backfield. He'll come up with the pick. He'll force the fumble. Dude forced 11 turnovers last year, 4 interceptions, 7 forced fumbles. Pretty remarkable stuff there. No linebackers made more big plays over the last 2 seasons than him. He played Mike and Will at the college level. Good read and react. He's elite in coverage.
I got a jet going overhead. Sorry.
Oh, dang. Okay. He was also supposed to be smaller. I know that sounds a little bit weird to say at 231, but people thought he was going to be like 220, I think. So 231 is not bad for him. So there's a lot to love, but the short arms give you pause, because when you have shorter arms, it's harder to tackle. So he may not be a great tackler. He's not a good wrap-up player as it is. He gets stuck on blockers, doesn't shed them. He does fall for eye candy. He will be very aggressive and just go for it and get pushed out of the play because of it. And sometimes he gives up big plays in coverage because he's so aggressive going for the ball. So the physical limitations are a problem. I don't think he's a good fit for our defense, but I think he's a second-round pick for the right team. I could definitely spend even like a middle-ish second-round pick on him.
Yeah, I don't have a lot else to add on to your evaluation of him, because I'm in pretty much a succinct agreement with you as far as, you know, there's definitely stuff with him where he shows up on tape, and a guy that gets downhill, he's as good as any linebacker in this draft at, you know, getting downhill and attacking and being able to, you know, create the splash play. But the issues you really worry about with him, I don't know if they're going to come along. I don't know if he's going to get better at defeating blocks. I don't know if he's going to get better at tackling as we go along. Like you mentioned, the arm shortness size is a kind of a thing, and he'll get it on a block, and then here comes the ball carrier, and he's got to go leap to try to, like, an off angle or a little bit off balance, kind of go leap to make the tackle on the guy, and the tackle will be ripped out of his hands because he just can't get off the block, and then he can't get the arms long enough to then go make the tackle. And that does happen a good amount for him on tape. The blitzing is great, and the TFLs and getting in the backfield and just being very instinctive for a guy that's kind of new to the position is very impressive. But I do think, like you said, just not a fit to our defense. More like Kyle Luis there with Pittsburgh. It's a little bit more of maybe more of a blitz-centric kind of defense, more of a pressure-based defense, more of an attacking style of defense that's where Jacobs got to go. And I do think in the late second round, that's a good place to go get him, to get that. I think he can be a good player in that kind of defense, but that's not kind of what we want from, our off-ball linebackers. This is what we learned with the Dotson Baker thing. Dotson Baker could run. Dotson Baker could give you flash plays. Dotson and Baker could not get off blocks. And that we found was almost kind of a pure necessity of this defense, is almost a beginning point with McDonald a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Those are good players too. You're right. Like Dodson's good. He left here and was immediately good again. It's just didn't work here. So that's a good example.
Yeah. And I don't have the information here on, for some reason I didn't get it put down, but let's talk a little bit about the last couple of guys we have here. And
I'll
first guys
CJ out now, just in case you want to go ahead and throw it up there. Maybe I forgot to send it to you last night. No. Okay. It was the first one. Okay. It was at the top.
Oh, that's why. Mm-hmm. I was like, I got this. Boom, boom, boom. CJ Allen, kid out of Georgia, another projectable kid, 20 and a half, 20 and 7-8 months, something like that. He'll be 21 here by the start of the season. Shorter, smaller guy, 6 foot, we'll call him 6'1", 230, decent weight there. Shorter arms on this guy, big hands. Didn't have the best pro day, Brendan. Not the best pro day.
Yeah. This is, I called him Steady Eddie. He's one of those guys that has a lot of steak, but he doesn't have a lot of sizzle. He doesn't make a ton of big plays. He's not a guy who's going to get a lot of takeaways or plays in the backfield. But from play to play, he is consistent. And maybe that's something McDonald would prefer more than a big splash player. Now, I don't know if CJ Allen is necessarily the kind of Steady Eddie he wants, because the short arms may make him not able to get off blocks, which is something that we kind of like here. And he didn't have a breakout 2025 season. People thought this guy was going to become like the next big thing at the linebacker spot in 2025. Didn't really happen. He was good. He was fine, but he's a leader on that defense. He wants to be great. He doesn't allow himself to get completely wiped out of the play by blockers, despite his shorter length. Good tackler, does have some upside as a blitzer and coverage player, but he's not a great athlete. And like I said, he's just kind of your Steady Eddie guy, and that's fine, but you got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, he is a guy that I think, like I said, he's got some stoutness as far as how he deals with the run game. He's got a low center of gravity as well, and how he just runs around, which does help him as far as on impact, to be it dealing with offensive linemen on blocks or coming in to make the tackle with some force. He does get overwhelmed at his size at the point of attack. The blitzing is great. Georgia does a lot of that. You're going to get a grade A blitzer here in him coming here. He's going to know how to play all those kind of games. He does offer some plus lateral quickness, but I do think he has some tight hips. I think as well with coverage, he can kind of be picked on in coverage. Now, he's going to always make the tackle after the guy makes the catch, but the guy's kind of always going to be in a position to make the catch on him, if that makes sense. So I do really worry about him a little bit in what he's going to be able to do in coverage. And I just don't think he's quite enough of a hammer. And this is why I put him in the third round, quite enough of a hammer in the run game and as a tackler to quite necessitate taking him into the second round. I had a comp of Nick Bolton, Kansas City Chiefs off-ball linebacker. That's kind of the same kind of player I saw in him, where I think you're right. There's some steady floor to this, even though he's a real young pup here. But I don't know if I see some of the upside to his game and what he's going to bring, even though he's a younger guy on this, for what I saw on the tape with him.
Yeah. I ended up not being as enamored with Allen as I thought I was going to be, but I still think that he's like a second round pick to me. And if we got him at 32, I'd be fine. I would not object to that. I've just come around to liking a guy like Anthony Hill a little bit more, which I did not initially think would be the case.
Yeah. I think that's a fair outlook of it. And CJ certainly is right now, I think, projected to be more second round and where he's at from most people's outlook of it. So elite run game instincts. Just some questions for me when it comes to the actual tackling, and then the coverage stuff for me are just kind of somewhat big worries for me and concerns. Okay, last guy we're going to take a look at here, and this is a guy that will be a day 3 guy, and a guy that you could actually get some upside, which is why I wanted to look at him, even though he's a day 3 guy, along with this, because you're actually potentially getting some upside and some real versatility in play from this kid. Harold Perkins Jr. came to LSU initially as a pass rusher, and they did the opposite of the Arvell Reese, Micah Parsons thing, where they took the edge rusher and they made him an off-ball linebacker. So he made more of that transition at this time, has done less of the blitz stuff, still has in his bag, but A guy with some freakish talent, tore his ACL about 2 years ago, still kind of coming back from that, but did flash on tape. Interesting player here, 6'1", 223. So yep, undersized, but actually got some edge ability to him as well for even at that size. What'd you think of Harold Perkins?
Yeah, we got the Alex Smith Award here with those hands, don't we?
Oh yeah. It's got some tiny little digits.
Yeah. 8 and an eighth. That is that might be a record unless you're like a punter or something. Those are punter hands.
I'm sorry, Harold. I'm just sorry. I'm just sorry.
Not good. But
and he wears 7 feet.
Oh man. Well, look, the hybrid stuff is awesome. I love it. Quality athlete, makes a lot of big plays. And one thing that's nice is he was a special teams demon early in his LSU career. So you already know he can do that. He can use force on his punches to shut off blockers, but it was just kind of hard for me to take this that seriously. He's too small. He's so small in so many different ways. I don't see how this works. Like, how is an edge rusher how are you going to hold the edge at 223 pounds? I don't see it. And he doesn't have the developed off-ball instincts yet. The injury in 2024 stunted his growth. He's not a good tackler. He's got some bad habits in coverage as well, even though he is actually a pretty good cover player overall. So I just can't do it. He's too small to be the edge rusher, and he's not a good enough tackler yet for me to think he's going to be the off-ball linebacker. So I ended up going like late 4th, early 5th. I couldn't get too excited here. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I've got him in the 4th round, but it's 4th, 5th round is the right spot. I think just what separates him on that is I think your characterization is right. I think the coverage stuff does show some good moments there where he makes some legit plays in coverage, and that prior to the injury, he was a hyper athletic, super explosive guy, not just kind of like a good athlete, not just kind of explosive, but he was that dude out of the SEC. And that you wonder if that can come back now another year removed from that ACL injury. You said it held him back. I agree with that. But now I think even as the year went on later this year, he started to kind of show more signs of the old Harold Perkins that we had seen coming onto the scene earlier. And so a guy that might not be able to operate as much from the edge, I think you can mix him around in your defense a little bit, and you could have him as like starting out at, he looks like an off-ball linebacker pre-snapped, and just right before the snap, you push him off the edge there and you kind of catch him by surprise, especially if it's a passing down situation where he doesn't have to worry about the run. But I do trust enough in the potential of him as an off-ball inside linebacker to have you're just taking him for that, then I'm fine with that. And I think that unlike a lot of guys you're going to get into day 3 where you're just kind of going, this is a guy you go, well, look, there's some legit upside here in a way I'm not going to find in other players. And that's what made him interesting to me. I don't know if he'll reach it. Maybe he'll never get there. Maybe he's a bit of a tweener in between on both those two areas, but legitimately has some talent here that I don't think you're going to find on day 3 in other places.
Yeah, I just can't help but be a little pessimistic here, but I get it. I get the argument for sure. It's just, I don't know.
I get it. We're in the same place basically on this as far as where we have our outlook with him there. But that will be it, folks. We got through it. These are our basic guys there. There are some other inside off-ball linebackers. Jay Sean Barnum, we talked a little bit as an edge rusher. He can do some off-ball linebacker stuff. Aiden Fisher, Whit Weeks, but these are more the day 3 guys with not a lot of upside there. You want to get and you want a linebacker in this draft, Brendan, you're going to have to probably take a day 2, maybe even day 1. If you want to get one with some value. Yeah.
And look, if it's the case that Anthony Hill is there at 32 and the Seahawks take him, that may not be a pick a lot of people understand, but I'm going to be pretty excited for that. I'm going to say that's a good pick.
Yep. I would agree with you there. And, so yeah, these are the kind of guys we wanted to kind of concentrate on this year. Want to kind of go more specific this year, especially with the Hawks only having 1 6th round pick. John's probably going to add more picks, but right now we're picking where we're picking on this. And with this draft being kind of a week 1, day 3 guys in this draft, especially are ones where, spending a lot of time on them doesn't make a lot of sense because there's just not a lot of potential here, in my opinion, on some of these guys we've looked at that are a little bit later on that we didn't talk about. So these are the ones in this draft. We're going to call a little bit on that note. If you guys can do me the favor here and hit that like button on either side here, me or Brendan, whichever you're watching on, hit the like button for us, sub on up on either side if you're not already. I've got one more question for Brendan. One more little question for you, Brendan, here. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me get it right. Get it right. Here we go. Boom. Who is our favorite Seahawks official visit? And who is our least favorite Seahawks official visit?
My favorite is Brandon Cisse because he liked one of my tweets on X.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's actually not the only one. I've gotten likes from a couple of other players as well. So been kind of cool. But Cisse was the first one. Actually, no. Okay. My favorite is actually Caden McDonald. I would go with Caden McDonald. My least favorite, I mean, like, am I going to say Coleman Bennett because I don't know who it is, or is that not really what you're looking for here?
No, go for one that you know. We both know. Don't cheat.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to say R. Mason Thomas. I don't understand that one for this defense.
Yeah. Understandable, man. That's one that's got my head scratching as well, along with Cassius Hal. That's another one that I'm kind of like, huh? What? Mm-hmm. Wait, what? Wait, who? Wait, how's that? Wait, hold on. Wait, what? So, all right. Well, thank you, Brennan, for doing this, man. I really appreciate you for rocking with me throughout these years as we get to do these draft coverages. Me and Brendan, of course, going to be doing our own separate live stream shows on the day of the draft, but we're also next week going to be doing wrap-up shows right after round one and then right after day two. So you'll get a double dose of both me and Brendan next week as far as a collab goes with the B&B. But we're really looking forward to this draft. I had a lot of fun here breaking down this with you, Brendan. Even though we don't have a lot of picks, this is still an interesting draft. It's kind of, Seattle's got so many ways they can go about it. You really appreciate with John that despite the obsession with Jadarian Price, that he is a guy that kind of leaves everybody available on the board there as a possibility because he's taking care of business and you don't have to do anything. You can go for value like he's done in recent history and be very successful with that approach. And I'd expect him to do it again in this draft. I don't think he's going to do something different here.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully. I think there's still good stuff we can get. If we come out of this with one of those semi-blue chip corners at 32, that is going to excite me. That is something that I feel like is going to be well worth it. You get Chris Johnson, you get Brandon Cisse, you get Colton Hood at 32. I think you did very well, even by the standards of a better draft.
It's going to be interesting to your point on that with John, because he has such the safety of those corners that are there where you know that any one of these 3 or 4 guys kind of have some similarities to them as upside. They're different type of players here and there, but there's some similarities to them on, you got some good steady floor with a little bit of upside to them as well, versus then the alternative kind of players that John could be looking at there, be it a Caleb Banks, Caden McDonald type, or be it an Anthony Hill, like we talked about off all linebacker that he may just fall in love with and say, I think this kid's got all pro type potential, and you're going to really learn a lot about John in this draft and who he takes in that spot because he's got that sort of, you can just go to the safety here. It's not them going for need with those corners you mentioned, by the way. It's that It's the safety of you just kind of know what you're getting a little bit. And it is a little bit of that need to, not to the need, but something that would definitely help your team getting that filled out. So going to be interesting for me on this draft, really that part in particular, because he does have so many of those guys right there, Brendan.
Yeah. There's stuff we can do here that's going to feel good. I know that this draft doesn't have a lot of excitement around it. I understand that some people are going to be a little bit down on it, but there is still, and we're going to need to do it if we want to stay on top. We're going to have to find the good players. That's your job as a GM.
It is indeed. You don't got the Russell Wilson trade first round picks anymore. You're going to be needing to get this stuff done in the spot where you had some issues 10 years ago in finding good players. And this is the hard part about picking this late in the draft. That's what every team runs into, not just a John issue, but a team issue that's picking that late. We'll see what John can do this next week. And if he can find some value, find some upside, and maybe even find another difference maker in this draft and keep this great run that he's had these 3 years, Brendan, rolling like he has, because this is a fundamental reason that you find yourself in the Super Bowl is that you're hitting your draft picks. You're not missing, especially early on in the draft here in recent years, and you're maximizing it to the utmost. So keep it going this week here, Seahawks. Keep it going, John Schneider. Keep the good times running, and let's get back and repeat this Super Bowl in SoFi Stadium. Thank you for you guys watching today. We really appreciate it. Again, hit that like button if you can. Last dono here out the gate, just as we walk our way out. Thank you for the $2 donation, Hawkline Heritage. Ram fans are terrified of us getting Johnson. Oh, how... Yeah, I can see how, we signed these 2 cornerbacks and you guys got a better one than the 2 that we signed, instantaneously playing better than those 2 guys. That would definitely twist a little bit of the knife there.
At this point, I would be surprised if Johnson's not there at 32. For whatever reason, he's been bumping down boards a little bit. And like, even if he's somehow not, one of those corners is going to be there. There's like 4 corners, right? You got Colton Hood, Cisse, you've got Johnson, and then who's the fourth guy? I'm slipping.
Kind of depends on evaluation fronts there a little bit, but Avion Terrell could fall with a hamstring injury.
Yes, thank you, Avion Terrell.
Yeah,
like one of those four guys will be there. I'm almost positive.
I am too. And it's going to be a hard first round to pick. I think that's why Johnson's getting kind of estimated to go up a little bit higher, is everyone right now is struggling with who are the 32 guys that are going, right beyond where they're going. Usually through these years, we can kind of itemize more of like right around 25 to 26 of the 32 guys that are going to go leading up to the draft. Whereas this draft, Brendan, we might be sitting more with about like, well, we know 18 of the guys for sure that are going in the first round. We know 20 of the guys that are going for sure in the first round, but we don't know past that. And so that's going to lead to a lot of people trying to speculate here with Johnson, but he does seem to be climbing up the boards in a major, major way. That's for sure.
Right.
Thank you though, Hawkline. Appreciate you for the donation. Appreciate you guys for watching today. Y'all are very kind for rolling with us throughout this off season. We got a lot stacked up here for you. I'll be back with the Seahawks Syndicate later on today, but we got the draft coverage coming next week in full. So load up for that. Really going to do appreciate you guys watching. Let's see our Seahawks go out there and destroy this draft in the best of ways next week. But until next time, please, 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 don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.